Hi, everyone. Today I'm here with Angela Teeple. She played field hockey at Ball State University. She was in coaching and playing for 23 years before she decided to leave and start a nonprofit called All In Athletes. And it works to empower athletes with essential mental fitness skills, activates community engagement, and also advocates for a positive team culture. So, hi, Angela.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I just want to start off by asking you to talk a little bit about your college athletic career and sort of how that influenced your career path.
Sure. Getting into college was a little bit difficult. I was a goalkeeper in high school, but I was born with no ACLs. So being recruited was going to be quite the challenge. But the Ball State University coach, Karen Fitzpatrick, took a risk on me. I went out there, I walked on, and had like a goalkeeper, a senior goalkeeper, and another scholarship player. And I beat them out within like 3 weeks of the season in Boston. And then I had that position for 4 years. I got my scholarship. Went through a lot of trials and tribulations with my knees. So really learned resiliency then, and everything else I had going on. I got my degree actually in nutrition, but loved coaching right away. As a goalkeeper, you kind of are that voice. And so when I first got out, I was like, how can I coach? They said, be a teacher. And I'm like, oh, I didn't like school. Like, I was like, really? So I was like, all right, let's get in Jersey, you can get your transcript evaluated. And they were like, oh, you just have to pass a test and you can teach science because of my nutrition background. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And I was there for 23 years and again, just went through a lot of stuff and realized that the teaching aspect wasn't for me. I liked culture. I liked organizing people. I liked coaching the life skills. So I was like, how can I do this? And I quit. And I was like, I'm going to follow my dream. And so one of that was to write a book, have a podcast, and start a nonprofit based around like mental health and athletics. So that leads me here. So a couple career paths.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I think like part of what makes great coaches great is not just, developing you as an athlete, but also like as an all-around person and sort of like embracing that, like family culture and, it's you're not with your parents for the first time. So it's like when you're
Yes.
a college coach, especially, like you need to sort of remember that like you're stepping into that sort of parent role as well as a coach, which is super important.
Yes. Yes.
Um, what was it like when you first quit your job and decided to pursue this? Because I know like it obviously doesn't happen overnight. Um,
Yeah. So at first I had an idea where I was going to open a healthy food cafe and bring in that nutrition major. And that lasted like 4 months. And I was in it and I was like, I can't, my big thing was always like, I can't be a light in people's lives, like serving soup and sandwiches. So right before I was ready to sign this like big deal, I backed out. I was like, you know what, this doesn't feel right. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like open an inspirational t-shirt company. And we called it All In. And in the meantime, I was like, if all else fails, I'm gonna go into the family business of ice cream because my family owns an ice cream store. So I'm like, let me just jump in and do this. So January of 2023, we jumped in and we had a message along the lines. It was actually a t-shirt company, so it wasn't a nonprofit. And we were selling inspirational t-shirts. But it was coming down to the mental health part for me. And then when I started speaking to teams, I was like, no, no, this is what I love doing. And then my story of resilience got stronger through some stuff that I went through. And then finally, I was like, you know what? This needs to be a nonprofit. I want to be a speaker, and I'm going into the personal and professional development worlds with this nonprofit. And it was a lot of ups and downs and am I going to make it? And still, like I had a teacher salary and now it's getting yourself out there and people are like, you opened a nonprofit, dummy, and can't make any money. I'm like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'll make money on the side with speaking. My business is growing. I just had a TED talk. And so it'll happen if your heart's in the right place and you're setting the message. So now it's just faith over fear.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think like I mean, we've had a bunch of people throughout my athletic experience come speak to us on, like, their experiences and, like, sort of athlete mental health, and I feel like those were sort of some of the most impactful moments of my career, hearing people with their
Mhm.
different stories because it's one thing to say like, for coaches to say, like, "Yeah, athlete mental health matters, and, like, we're here for you," but to actually hear people with different experiences come in and speak to you, like, I feel like that was super impactful and super helpful.
Yeah, and especially when you can tie it, like, we can relate. Like, I can kinda relate to just about anybody with my story, so it's, like, really cool to make people like, be vulnerable. Like, one of my superpowers is I'm vulnerable and authentic, so people are just like, "Okay, I can relax now," she's not coming at us with, like, dedication and hard work. She's
Yeah.
coming at us in a different way,
Yeah.
so mhm.
Were there any throughout your college athletic career and also, when you decided to leave teaching, like, were there any mentors that had, impact on you that, helped you with that career transition or even throughout your college career?
Absolutely, like, my head coach, Karen, Fitz, we called her, and then my assistant coach, Dina, they were just they were unbelievable. I mean, from taking the risk on me, I mean, I was a athlete from Jersey with, a little off being a goalie, they say, and in life. And they brought me in and, as you know, with college athletics, you are taking all these people from different cultures, backgrounds, and bringing them into one space. And they valued culture a lot. And those girls on my team just took me in and made me feel like I was part of them. And so they were definitely my mentors. I was really close to my assistant coach Dina to this day. I mean, I wrote about them both in my book, and they just made me believe that I could be different and still succeed. And then even when I made this jump, I talked to them, and they would probably be my top two mentors. And then now in my life, I have some high school friends that were very successful in business and being like family, and I just go back to them. So I learned though, you keep your tribe small and powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a good one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. How did you, like, going through this transition, like, what advice would you give to someone who, may be stuck in a career post-college that, maybe was their major, maybe they just thought that they would enjoy it? Like, what advice would you give to someone who wants, to pursue a career change maybe 20 years into their career, 22 years into their career?
Yeah. I would say make sure that you have like your purpose. Like if in your career you're not being fulfilled, you're wasting life. And you should always live life to the fullest. And when you take that risk, make sure you have investigated it. And I might have taken mine a little too soon. And I try to tell people that. But that's kind of me. That's all in. I'm like, woo. But I would say make sure you're investigating what you want to do, use your resources, talk to people. One of the things I say is make the call. Don't be afraid to make the call to investigate what that another field looks like or what you want to do for you. It all works out. Like you keep going and everything finds a way to work out. Like, and just embrace the failure. And because you're gonna fail, and failure meaning like, all right, that didn't work out. Let me pivot. And you're gonna look back on your journey and you're gonna be like, oh wow, like I needed those things and I needed those moments. But don't stay stuck in a dead end career. I mean, everything changes, and so do we. We evolve through our trials and tribulations, we evolve through our successes, and it's never too late. It's never too late to find that higher calling. I'm big into that. Like, I'm not going to waste my time just doing something, and teaching, I wasn't really wasting my time, but I didn't like rules and I didn't want to teach about the periodic table. So that wasn't a fit for me. It was out of character, like stay true to who you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, finding your purpose is something that really, sticks with me because it's really difficult. Like, I know you stayed involved in coaching and athletics post your playing career for a while, and right now you still are to a
Yeah.
degree. But I think especially at, like, high major Division I schools and, like, all college athletics in general, like, your purpose is you're an athlete, and, like, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's super shocking to people when their sport ends and, like, they graduate, and most people don't have, a playing career post-college, so I think it is super important, like, throughout your college career to, find other things that, like, help you find your purpose and like outside of your sport. I feel like that is so important because it helps you when your sport is done that you don't feel lost. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was talking to someone else on this and they were talking about how, it's important to find something that you're doing for your job that, you're going to be fulfilled and, it's going to make you money, but it's going to fulfill you first
Hmm.
as a person. Because I feel like as an athlete, like finding your purpose is the most important thing post your sport.
Yeah. And I think like one of my missions with the nonprofit is that should be happening along the lines of training to be the best you can be on the field. So our big thing is like just this empowerment and this education and this culture building that while you're busting your butt to be the best you can be as a basketball player, you're also figuring out like how be reflective, what is my purpose, what is my why beyond this? Like yes, it is to perform, but it also is, maybe you fall in love with like, what, like whether it's you want to be a therapist or you want to be a teacher, you find it there. We shouldn't just be robots on the athletic fields. We should be having hard conversations, because if you don't learn it, then you're really not getting the most out of athletics, because
Yeah.
athletics should be teaching you those things. And if they're not, then you're getting slighted on your experience. And that's one thing that I always say is I will make sure that every athlete has an experience where they're growing individually, because you can't do the hard stuff in life if you don't have that backbone and that foundation of resilience, of courage, of and you get that from athletics, but some people don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a coach that's beating you down and you never learn how to get past it. And then you have these issues later on in life, or injury, coming back from an injury, like, so it's really the right avenue to teach women how to bounce back in everything.
Yeah. I feel like
Mhm.
at the beginning of my college career, I definitely, lost sight of doing other things outside of my sport. As you get older and you have different experiences and your college career goes on, you learn.
Mhm.
And when I transferred, I really made an effort to, you know, get involved in other things outside of, my specific sport, even if it was still in athletics. Like I was involved in SAC, um,
Mhm.
I had an internship with the athletic department and even just that stuff sort of helped me like have a clear, not even just like, I don't know if it helped me find my purpose necessarily, but it also
Yeah.
helped me have a clearer mind, like
Yeah.
going into practices and going into games, like knowing that that wasn't everything about me. Like there's more to me than just being on this team. And like I have more value as a student at the school besides just being a basketball player, So
Absolutely.
I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that, I feel like this happens for everyone. And like at the beginning of my career, that's a really hard thing to wrap your head around. But, as you mature and you
Hmm.
through change, that's something that you learn. And I feel like I definitely learned that
Yeah.
towards the end of
And
my.
that message should get out there, because you're not going to feel as much pressure if you know that like you're involved in other things. Like I have this big thing I always say is like I don't want to spread awareness for mental health. I want to put athletes in situations where they're feeling better about their mental health. And the best way to do that is, like you said, community involvement, giving back, being part of organizations that are teaching you how to get outside your comfort zone, teaching you how to attach and advocate to a mission. Like that's really important, I think, because you definitely will improve your mental health if you know that there's a bigger picture. Like we're very lucky as athletes and we have God-given strengths and talents, but at the end of the day, like what are we going to do with them past graduation?
Yeah.
That's the key to life.
Yeah. I think that aside from like finding your purpose throughout
Hmm.
your career, I think something, especially at the high majors, like, I feel like at the mid majors as well, and I've experienced this too, but, people sort of lose sight of the fact that they're not going to be a college athlete
Yeah.
anymore. And like they're
Mhm.
not going to be most likely playing their sport super competitively once those 4 or 5 years are over. And they don't begin, even remotely thinking about their career until, the day their season ends or when they
Mhm.
graduate, which is scary. And like there's a lot of schools that don't provide those resources unless you're actively seeking them out.
Yes.
Um, I was lucky to have some mentors and some people who were giving me advice, and I was able to pursue an internship last summer when I was on campus at school for summer training, which was like super
Oh,
unique. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity, but it's also because I went out there and I, pursued it. Like
mhm,
if I didn't go for it and I didn't ask my coach and I didn't like put in the effort to make it all work, like that wouldn't have been an opportunity. And that was super unheard of. I feel like no one really does that, especially
well,
at like mid-major and Division 1 level. So I feel like advocating for, like giving information and like helping college athletes know like it's okay to be fully involved in your sport right now, but you also should like start thinking and like, be aware that like it's going to be over and there's
yeah,
stuff after college and you don't want to be completely on ground zero when you finish your career. Like you want to have some sort of idea of what your passions are. You want to have some sort of networking and,
mhm,
have some sort of step forward once you're done. Because as an athlete, most people don't have that experience, like the internship and work experience.
yeah. And I think that's important too, like coaches and parents and teammates need to give each other grace that you are also building as a person. So, like you said, that we should be encouraging that. And some people just have it, like you have it, obviously, like, and you're creating this platform so people can come on, listen, and be like, oh, you know what? They're right. I could use that. But the more we get the resources into the teams from freshman year on, like you just have this resource that what does this look like for you? Like, what are your strengths? What do you got to work on? Not just hitting the ball or shooting it, like it's like, hey, are you a good teammate? Can you work well with others? Are you kind? And then once you establish that confidence, I think stepping out of your comfort zone like you did to find those resources to get ready to graduate, you have more confidence that you're more than an athlete. You're a human and you should be ready. Like you should be ready to be more than an athlete. But I always say this, you're always an athlete. And I thank God that I was an athlete because the skills we have and what if you did it the right way and you had the right mentors, it's phenomenal. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have that competitive edge, but that reflectiveness, that caring, that wanting to connect, to be inclusive, authentic, like those were the best of times. But nowadays it's very hard to have a genuine, authentic connection because of the way the world is. But we'll get it back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
We
feel like
will.
there are so many skills and intangibles as an athlete that like you don't
Oh,
even think about when you're in the
yeah.
moment, that carry over obviously to post grad life in every aspect, in work and
Every aspect.
relationships and everything, but you don't even realize it obviously in the moment because it's
Yeah.
second nature. I was
Somebody said to me once, they're like, "Oh, would you like consider yourself like a dumb jock?" And I was like, "That's kind of mean, but yep, I'd rather be a dumb jock than a wallflower."
I was
So,
talking to someone recently and we were just, we were laughing over the fact that like she was saying that her coworkers were so nervous going into like their quarterly meetings with their boss because they've never had to like experience that. And I was like, that's so funny because, unless you're a college athlete, like you don't really experience like one-on-one meetings with like a superior. Like we were
yeah,
experiencing it from the age of like 17, 18. And like
yep,
obviously at that age it's nerve-wracking, but now like being 22 years old and now like I'm going into my 6th year of college basketball and I have a job, like, it's like I don't even think twice about that.
yeah.
But
That's such
it's
a
great
great
that
point.
a lot of
Mhm.
people don't like that's just one skill that like so many people don't experience, which is
Yeah.
wild to me.
And like when I have to now with the nonprofit as we grow, I have to go into meetings and I say,
Yeah.
a majority of the time it's a group of men. And it's like, where do you get that confidence? Well, you're a female athlete. Now I'm a badass. And you sit down over there and give me your money. So it's definitely true. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My last question for you is if you just have any specific advice or career advice for athletes who are in this sort of transition period, might have just graduated or going into their last year of playing college athletics.
I would say make a decision and go with it. You can always pivot. I always say resilience is defined as the pause, the pivot, and the bounce back. So go with it. If it doesn't work, go another way. And when you go the other way, go back and know what you learned, but keep moving forward. Just keep going. And you will eventually figure it out if you're willing to take the risks. Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate
Yes.
you on here.
Jane, thank you for having me.